Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Buckeye Weekly Podcast. I am Tony Gerdeman here, as always, with Tom Orr. Tom, how's it going?
Tony, your inflection on point as always. Always good to be here with you.
Thanks. Thank you, Tom. Thank you for that wonderful answer to my question of how you're doing. I'm doing fine. So you did ask. I am doing fine. It is Michigan State week, which is always a big week. It's second only to Michigan week and a distant second from number 4 Penn State week.
Mm-hmm.
There's Nebraska week in between there, maybe Wisconsin week, Rutgers week, then Penn State week, perhaps right around there. Maybe Maryland week before Penn State week.
quite a ways. Yes, it's
Youngstown State week.
Well, they haven't had one of those in a while, but that just means they're due.
Every week is Youngstown State week in some households, Tom. So here we are. We are 2 days away from I heard this today, the second largest line between two teams in the top 7 ever. The first being in the line right now is like 19.
Mm-hmm.
The first was 2013 Florida State, a 21-point favorite over one of the other ACC teams. It doesn't matter. They're all the same back then. It wasn't Duke. It was Miami. That's who it was. And they covered. So pretty big. I mean, 19 points gets not the number 7 team in the nation. Maybe Tom could even be number 6, but they would have had to have beaten Michigan to earn that right. And we know they did. But here we are. Big news this week out of Michigan State. Rumors, reports that head coach Mel Tucker is on the verge of signing or being offered a 10-year, $95 million extension, which is crazy. The first time I saw that, I was like, that's a lot of money. I believe it's from donors and boosters, not the school itself, which they can spend their money, I guess, however they want. And Michigan State is like, okay, what's it costing us? It just secures, it would secure him there. It would maybe stop LSU from calling, maybe stop everybody else from calling as well. And I've been completely blown away by what he has done this year. Last year, first year he's brought in, Ryan Day said it on Thursday. Ryan Day had his radio show and his lightning round today. Just how much he has changed that program, the roster in 1 year. And they have like 5, 6, 7 transfers that have started this year. Obviously, Kenneth Walker being the key guy there, but this is going to rewrite some coaching salaries, I think, or maybe how those salaries get higher. Maybe the school pays Ryan Day $6 million and somebody else kicks in $4 million or something of that nature, because I don't know how long Mel Tucker can stay the highest paid coach if he signs that. But what did you think when you saw that? Because I was pretty blown away.
Last year, Mel Tucker's Michigan State team went 2-5. This year, Mel Tucker has taken a bunch of transfers and won a bunch of close games, and he's done a good job. But they beat Indiana by 5, they beat Michigan by 4, they beat Nebraska in overtime. They Western Kentucky they beat by 17. It's like I have not gone back and looked at the expected record right now, where it's like you had a 97% chance of winning this game based on your yards per play and all that kind of stuff. It feels like their expected record is probably about 7.5 and 2.5 or so. And yeah, they beat Michigan, but they were I think they were less than 50-50 to actually beat Michigan in that game. And they might have been substantially less than 50-50 to beat Michigan in that game. And, what's better than being a championship coach? Being a maybe pretty good coach at a school where the boosters are a little clingy because they really like to beat their rival in-state rival. And a coach who's just good enough to be in demand from some big name programs around the country. I mean, It's not, it's not a Big Ten championship. It's not the Rose Bowl, but apparently it gets you paid.
Well, and if Michigan State beats Ohio State this week, that's probably going to go up to like 125 million.
Yeah, but if Michigan State loses by 21 this week, then what happens?
That's why you sign it now.
I mean, you sign it now if you're Mel Tucker. I mean, it's like if someone's willing to give you the money, like God bless, man. But sometimes these things work out great, and sometimes it's like we're going to lock this dude in, and it's going to be awesome, and we're going to be great forever, and we're never going to lose to anyone again. And sometimes you give a whole bunch of money to a coach, and it's like, well, okay, just Google Auburn coach history, and that'll pretty much show you the other side of that. It's like, well, this guy just won a national championship. Coach O just won a national championship 2 years ago. Let's give this guy a bunch of, oh, dear Lord. Oh, no. Like sometimes 1 year is just 1 year, and doing it on the backs of a lot of transfers is like, yeah, maybe that's a lot of money, and you'd better be right. If you're going to give him that money, you'd better be right.
Well, and the Detroit News says it's expected to be announced as early as Thursday, and that has not happened yet as we record this at 6 p.m. Thursday. I wonder if this is one of those things where like the donors will pay the salary, but it's going to be up to the school to pay like the $20 million buyout or whatever. Like if things go sour after 3 years, then the school, it's like, well, we have not paid anything at this point other than the initial salary. And so, okay, yeah. What's $20 million to get rid of a bad coach or possibly keep a really good one? But yeah, when you're changing over the roster like that and you bring in upperclassmen who then have great years, then they're gone. And have you recruited at all?
Mm-hmm.
Because Ohio State's not bringing Justin Fields in through the transfer portal every year. They've got to recruit as well. And I don't think you can rely on the transfer portal to keep you at a certain spot. You can rely on the transfer portal to raise you up, not consistently at times. The missing piece. Tom, if you got 40, 20, 10 missing pieces, you're not going to find all those pieces in the portal.
No, you're not. And I mean, the portal is great for Ohio State needs a quarterback, or Ohio State needs a offensive lineman, or Ohio State needs like, hey, you need one piece, or Alabama needs a wide receiver. Like, it's great. That's fantastic. You can do the portal thing and it can work out great. If you really have great evaluation and you hit, it can work out for you. If it doesn't work out for you, Google Texas State this year. That's what things are not working great for you. Looks like Tucker has Michigan State. They're 18th in the nation right now in recruiting. So it's like they're okay. They're fourth in the Big Ten, but I'm pulling it up right now. They have their highest rated commit is 178th in the nation. Their next highest is 199. So they have two guys inside the top 200 barely. They have two guys inside the top 250. They have three guys inside the top 290. They have 290 and 291. In addition to 260, 261. It's just, there's 5 4-star guys there. And 2 of them are labeled as athletes, which is like, I mean, maybe sometimes those guys are great. And sometimes those guys are projects. They do have Antonio Gates Jr. So congratulations. We're all 1 million years old.
Now, is he going to play for Tom Izzo like Antonio Gates played basketball at Kent State?
Kent State, correct. Yes, Kent State.
So
it doesn't
only
say
1 year of football for Antonio Gates Jr. He'll have to, take the mission trip to the Michigan State basketball for a few years and then can come play football.
He's listed as 6'1", 185. So maybe he got his mom's height.
Yeah, that's well. I mean, look at Lorenzo Styles Jr. Not quite as big as his dad.
I'm just going to read from the bottom of their class, okay? And you tell me if this sounds like, oh, this is wildly different from a typical Michigan State class. Let's see. They have 21 commits. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so we're going to read from the middle of the class down. Ready? 703, 713, 817, 855, 889, 894, 929, 942, 970. Not ranked.
That was Michigan's class.
That was Michigan State's class. Yeah. and above those, right above them is 678, 625, 588, 515, 504. You've got 21 kids committed. 5 of them are top 500 kids.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to bag on this guy, and I'm not saying there's no chance this works out, but you'd better be right. And I'm not 100% sure you're right.
Well, and I think this year will help with recruiting,
Mm-hmm.
not in 2022, but in the 2023 class, perhaps. It is very similar to a good Michigan State class in terms of where it's ranked. I think D'Antonio sometimes would have a couple of guys in the top 100. Sometimes, as we know, as I've said before, also he flew too close to the sun with, I think it was the 2016 class, and recruited a bunch of bad dudes, and they were, talented prospects, but not talented human beings. And you saw what happened, and eventually, essentially, maybe could have cost him his job. But as we know, Tom, Michigan State can evaluate prospects. D'Antonio did it. I'm sure nothing has changed in the evaluation of prospects, even though maybe nobody is still there from the previous regime. I'm sure it's going to be all the same as it was before. And I do wonder what it's like for Mel Tucker to come from, like, when he was he's been some big time places, and then to come here and have to try to convince the number 962nd player that, yes, please come to Michigan State, please come be a Spartan. And then, that's a lot of development. That's, good luck to him. But that's what most of the Big Ten has to do. Like, Ohio State can rely on recruiting talented guys, but Ohio State is also one of the best schools at getting the most out of those guys and developing them. So they do it all really well. Michigan, we thought Jim Harbaugh would do a better job of developing players. That hasn't happened, though. I think maybe it's gotten better over the last year or two. Perhaps. I don't know. You may have a different opinion, Tom. Before we get done with coaching, have you seen the Lane Kiffin rumors?
I have. It makes perfect sense. The Lane Kiffin rumors are Lane Kiffin would gleefully take the Miami job. And yes, that's a better recruiting base than Ole Miss, and you're in a much easier, more winnable division than Ole Miss. And, I'm going to put this as politely as I can. I think Lane Kiffin would be a good cultural fit with the Miami program. How's that? Is that polite? Did I say that nicely?
I think that's a match made in Miami, I guess. They're perfect for each other. I would like to see it. Miami right now is just, it's not interesting. It's not fun. It's not funny. It's a little funny. But Lane Kiffin, he has made Ole Miss fun and interesting. And so I think he would obviously do that at Miami. And yeah, I hope that happens. Although it's always a bit of a disappointment when you see the SEC West take a hit, because I think he's good for, he can challenge Alabama and Texas A&M. Without him, they're going to fall back to earth. Not that there's some outrageously amazing program, but they're number 12 or whatever. Mm-hmm. I don't see them maintaining that once he goes. I don't know who they would turn to. But
yeah, does Billy Napier get the LSU job? It feels like Billy Napier is getting an SEC job. Billy Napier, the coach of the Louisiana Lafayette Raging Cajuns right now, he feels like he might end up with the LSU job because they're not necessarily getting, Mel Tucker was a name that was getting kicked around there. Sounds like they're not getting him. Not sure James Franklin is quite the hot commodity he was earlier. And, you've heard Lincoln Riley's name attached to that job. And I could see that, but I don't know that that's a no-brainer that he takes that job. So, Billy Napier is somewhere on that list. And if Billy Napier doesn't get that, then he might take Ole Miss. He's turned down other SEC jobs before, but he might take Ole Miss if that was open.
Yeah, they're gonna throw money at somebody for sure. Once, assuming Lane Kiffin leaves, it's not like he's going to be there forever.
When multiple sources close to Lane Kiffin are letting you know that a job that is not open, he would happily take it. let me do a little criminology for you. Lane Kiffin is the people sources close to Lane Kiffin, or Lane Kiffin is telling people in his immediate circle, go ahead and let Miami know this publicly to put more pressure on Miami to fire Manny Diaz and hire me.
He enjoyed his time.
That's what that means.
Yeah, he enjoyed his time in Florida and looks like he'd like to get back there, and probably will here once this season is over. So, Tom, let's talk about this Michigan State Ohio State game. As I mentioned, it's an Ohio State favored by 19. Two Heisman, I was going to say finalists, two Heisman candidates. We don't finalists will come down the road. Kenneth Walker versus CJ Stroud. But Tom, does this just come down to Kenneth Walker versus TreVeyon Henderson? If one of those guys outperforms the other considerably, does that give you any inkling, or is that only if TreVeyon Henderson outperforms Kenneth Walker considerably?
Yeah, I think if TreVeyon Henderson outrushes Kenneth Walker, Michigan State has basically no way to win the game. Barring Ohio State being -5 in turnovers or something like that, if TreVeyon Henderson outrushes Kenneth Walker, Michigan State is in big, big, big trouble and probably not covering that spread. If Kenneth Walker outrushes, TreVeyon Henderson could finish with 80 yards in this game and Kenneth Walker could have 120. But if Ohio State's throwing for 400 yards, and I think there's a possibility that they might, then it maybe doesn't matter how much Kenneth Walker is running for. At that point, if Michigan State throws for 300 and Kenneth Walker runs for 120 and Ohio State, throws for 400, sure, absolutely. There's a possibility that, that Michigan State wins at that point. But you really, if TreVeyon Henderson outrushes Walker, I don't think Michigan State is going to be able to throw the ball enough to overcome that. And I think their secondary is shaky enough that Ohio State's going to be able to throw it. And potentially, this is kind of one of the big things. Can Ohio State throw the ball in the red zone and move the ball in the red zone, with that? Because you saw there was like a Chris Olave touchdown in the red zone 2 weeks ago or last week. All these games are blending together at this point. It's been a long season. But they have thrown the ball in the red zone a little bit recently. If they can continue to do that, or open things up in the red zone for the running game, then I don't think there's really a way Michigan State wins.
Jalen Naylor has missed a couple of games as a receiver. Mel Tucker has been mum on who is going to be healthy. I think they were missing their left tackle last week. Naylor missed a corner, didn't have Queveros Crouch, the linebacker. Those guys may be back, may not be back. Mel Tucker, very annoying, does not talk about injuries. I could not imagine dealing with that on the Ohio State beat, a coach who does not disclose stuff like that or get into it. So if he's not there now, that's going to be significant because they do need every single weapon. And if they only have Jaden Reed, who is very good, averaging 83 yards receiving per game this year, has scored 7 touchdowns, 18.4 yards per catch. So he's a big play guy, but he's dependable, can move the chains. But if you're down to one receiver, we saw Ohio State do really pretty well against David Bell last week. Mm-hmm. Some other guys went off, but Purdue's a passing team. Michigan State is not a passing team. They can throw the ball. They can sometimes throw the ball well. They're not a consistent throwing the ball kind of team where Peyton Thorne can sometimes be really, really good, other times be average. And I mentioned Brian Lewerke, I think in a recent show. Brian Lewerke had a weird career, like really good as a redshirt sophomore, never better than that. Peyton Thorne can kind of do all of that, go from good to bad in the span of 2 weeks. And you never know kind of which you're going to get. He can run. I think he's good enough to have success against the Ohio State defense. But a lot of times it's not the Ohio State defense that makes the plays. It's the quarterbacking that is not good enough to continually to remain consistent. And so the Ohio State defense can sometimes, they catch an overthrow, interception, and they just take advantage of teams that can't execute as well as they do. And that's kind of what Michigan State's passing game is to me.
And, I think a lot of this question is, can Michigan State stay on schedule? Can Kenneth Walker get them 4 or 5 yards on first down and make second down a real manageable you can run or you can pass kind of play. Because what you don't want to do is get into 3rd and 8 where, you have one bad throw and then that's the end of the drive. Like that's where, that inaccuracy could get them. And, Thorne's been reasonable. He's completing 63% of his passes this year. So it's not, he's not a disaster. This is not Indiana or anything, but, he's averaging 15 yards a game. It's like, it's fine. It's not rushing. Sorry. I forgot to include the word rushing there. That would be bad if it was passing. 15 yards rushing there. So, he can, get you a first down or two at some point during the game. There's enough there that it's going to be a little bit of a challenge. It's going to be a very different defensive scheme for Ohio State this week. I had Ross Fulton on the morning show for Friday, which is always fun because I don't need to be the smart one when Ross is on. I don't need to carry the show intellectually as opposed to, I don't know, other shows I'm on. Anyway, so Ross was talking about the fact that Ohio State was really very, very heavy defending the pass last week. It was essentially, defending the air raid, like rush 3, drop 8, like a lot. They did that a lot. And it was, the linebackers weren't even, on RPOs, the linebackers weren't even looking at their run fits. It was just drop into the passing lanes. And there's anything you do, there's always something that will work against that. But that's why Purdue was able to run the ball so much better against Ohio State than they did against anyone else. And their long run was 11 yards. It wasn't like they gashed Ohio State on the ground. It was just they were picking up 4 or 5 yards, and they were able to stay on schedule that way. Ohio State's obviously going to have to play a much more heavy run defense this week against Michigan State because Kenneth Walker is better than anyone on that Purdue team, especially in the run game. Like that's a running back Ohio State's really going to have to stop the run first, try and make Michigan State one-dimensional. They probably can, but then the question is, okay, how well are they going to be able to defend the pass? Are they going to be able to get off the field on 3rd down? If Kenneth Walker is running for 4 yards a carry, you're probably doing pretty well, even if Michigan State's trying to move the ball through the air, because that's going to be pretty hard to execute consistently to move the ball down the field through the air against Ohio State. Purdue was kind of forced to do that last week, and you will miss a pass at some point. That's just how it is, or you'll get sacked, or you'll get flagged for holding, and it'll derail a drive, and that's it.
Yeah, and you kind of just you wait for that a little bit. It's part of the bend but don't break thing. Now, I do think Ohio State, as long as it's not 30 miles an hour and the wind isn't just crazy, and like if the conditions are there for it, you look at what Michigan State has done the last 3 weeks with their pass defense, and we talk about don't measure a defense by how many passing yards they give up, but when it's 406 against Michigan, that's significant.
Mm-hmm.
Purdue 536, and then Maryland 350. That's 3 weeks in a row. And it's not because Michigan State was up by 3 touchdowns, 4 touchdowns that these teams had to throw on them. So you're talking, I think it's like 430 yards passing per game over the last 3 weeks. That might be the over/under on Ohio State passing yards, almost 430. Because if you were to ask me, like, you look at the schedule, Ohio State schedule, and say, what is the most likely game where they will have 3 receivers go over 100 yards? Right now, I understand they've already done it, so that would be the most likely game.
Mm-hmm.
But this feels very, I don't want to say very likely, but it feels like there is a really, really, really good chance that they go over 300, unless you have another 240-yard day from somebody and somebody else is only getting 80 because he just stole my 70-yarder or something like that. I just feel like, and Michigan State gets after the quarterback, but if you protect CJ Stroud, I don't know that Michigan State's defense can do anything for this Ohio State passing game. And yes, you want to be balanced, but if they can't stop the pass, I mean, how much do you even want to run?
Well, if they can't stop the pass, then they're going to have to dedicate more to stopping the pass. Eventually, you're going to have to back out of the box because so much of the running game is just numbers advantages. And at some point, they're going to have, you have to switch to a much softer coverage or an extra safety back over the top to have, help over the top for whoever's going deep. I mean, and then you get a number out of the box and then you can run the ball easier. And it's just, Ohio State is going to, they essentially did this last week with Purdue, the old, John Madden and Pat Summerall on TV talking to you about, running to set up the pass. Ohio State was passing to set up the run last week. I suspect they're probably going to have to do that again this week. The forecast for Saturday, high of 51, cloudy, 10-mile-an-hour wind.
Oh,
so
wow.
0% chance of precipitation. So it's going to be, that's going to be a pretty darn good day for football for late November in Columbus, Ohio. When I Googled that, the people also ask section came up with, is Columbus, Ohio going to have a bad winter? Winter will be colder than normal with below normal precipitation, but above normal snowfall. Good. Okay, cool. Okay, cool. Hook 'em.
Those are the two things I did not want to hear. I have heard like La Nina or El Nino would make this a little bit warmer, and that snow precipitation would be down. So I reject your Google, Tom. Who even answered that, Tom? It's a nobody. It's just an algorithm.
You'll have to take that up with the Farmer's Almanac. I don't know, man. I have not double checked the accuracy of the Farmer's Almanac over the last few years, and that's on me. I apologize.
I don't want to disparage farmers. I'm from Henry County, but I don't know how many of them actually contribute to that almanac. I'm just going to say that. I think it might just be one or two people, and I don't even know, Tom, technically, if those people are farmers.
And let's be honest, winter's not exactly peak growing season in Ohio, so they might be kind of mailing it down that portion of the almanac, right? Yeah. Well,
and also maybe it's just a last name farmer. Did you ever think about that?
I did not, but
it's like Joey Farmer's Almanac. Who's Joey Farmer? It's a nobody.
The eternal question. Anyway, so Michigan State.
Is that the eternal question, Tom? Have you sent in your picks to Mark?
I haven't. So I guess I'll go first. It feels like Ohio State should be able to throw the ball enough that they're going to be able to get into the minimally high 30s, probably at least low to mid 40s. So you're going to throw the ball a decent amount. This seems like a 4 or 5 touchdown day for CJ Stroud, probably a touchdown or 2 on the ground. So that gets you to 49. I'm going to back that off a little bit. So I'm going to say 45 to 20 for Ohio State.
All right, Tom, 45-24, 45-24. That's what you said?
45-24.
Okay. I went a little bit higher than you.
Mm-hmm.
I do agree that Ohio State is going to score. And right now I feel like the wheels are going to come off a little bit for Michigan State's defense. I do think they will also be able to score because that's what Ohio State has been allowing. I went 52. I went one more touchdown than you. You chalked up 7 touchdowns, and I was waiting.
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to add a field goal or are you going to come back a little? And you dialed it back and you were going 20. And I was like, is it going to be? And you went 24. I'm going 52-28.
Okay.
So we've got the same number of scores
mm-hmm.
for Michigan State. And I've got one more score for Ohio State on this one. So good. 52-28. I like the Buckeyes. I feel like it's the offense is going well. And like you said, if they're going to try to stop the pass, if they're going to try to stop Ohio State's pass, then boom, Mayan Williams and TreVeyon Henderson are going to have some room. And so that might be a fourth quarter where those two guys just take off and just put this away, put it in the stable, feed it some oats, put a blanket on it. I don't have horses, so I don't know the exact order of things there, but I think that's what they will do. Tom, anything else from this game that you're looking forward to that we should watch out for, that we should be careful for, that we shouldn't touch?
I think we've more or less covered it. I do think this is a game. With the wide receivers, this is a game where I think someone has like a blow up game. And I do, as much as Ryan Day on Thursday during the lightning round interviews talked about the fact that, they can't worry about the Heisman right now. Like, if they have an opportunity for CJ Stroud to put up a monster day against a top 10 opponent on national TV 3 weeks before the Heisman's handed out, I don't think they're going to like actively try and avoid that. And, having your quarterback win the Heisman Trophy, not that Ohio State has like struggled in quarterback recruiting recently, but again, probably not going to hurt. The last 4 quarterbacks have all been kind of Heisman contenders, at least, mid to late season. had a couple finalists in there. Feels like, another finalist and or winner would probably be be something that Ryan Day would be okay with. So I will say yes, pass heavy game, and that's part of what went into what did I pick? 150-yard receiver for Ohio State, or 2 125-yard receivers, something like that. I mean, it feels like this is going to be a little bit of a statement day for the Ohio State offense, especially the pass offense. I'm actually kind of more intrigued to what the defense looks like this week than anything else. Because if they can stop Kenneth Walker, I think that's a very good sign for what they might do against Georgia, for example, where Georgia's going to be kind of, you got to stop the run against Georgia. If you can stop the run against Michigan State, Georgia's line's better than Michigan State's, and Georgia's running backs are, similar. But if Kenneth Walker gets, 20 carries for 70 yards or something, I think that would give me a lot more confidence that Ohio State might be able to shut down Georgia in the running game to at least a certain degree as well.
Yes. Ohio State has one of the best run defenses in the country, top 15, but they have not faced anybody like Kenneth Walker yet. So we'll see how that goes. I think it's going to tell us a lot. But Thomas is also an opportunity for one Heisman candidate. You basically have a final four of Heisman candidates, and they all face each other this week. You've got CJ Stroud against Kenneth Walker. You've got Bryce Young against KJ Jefferson, Arkansas quarterback. So if KJ Jefferson outduels Bryce Young, now it's going to be, say, CJ Stroud against KJ Jefferson. What do you think about that?
I think you could probably start engraving this trophy with CJ Stroud's name, but again, there's a couple weeks left to play, so probably a little. It's not September anymore, so we're not talking about Cade McNamara, but it's still a little early to start engraving the trophy, I guess.
Watch out for JJ McCarthy, you're saying. I like that. Interesting, Tom. Okay, I guess that will do it. That's a little Michigan State talk for you. I think we will be doing probably a live show on Friday. We're trying to find the actual time to do that. And of course, we will also drop our weekend preview show on Friday as well, ahead of a pretty good week of action for the top 10. Oregon goes on the road to Utah as underdogs. We'll see what happens there. Will Alabama be on upset alert against that Heisman Trophy candidate that I just made up, KJ Jefferson, who I did not just make up? He exists, but he's not a candidate. But we shall see. So thank you all for tuning in. As always, we do appreciate you watching, you listening, and all that good stuff. So we will talk to you guys tomorrow.